psychic radio, holistic radio, spiritual radio. This is AchieveRadio.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/AchieveRadio.
Welcome, everybody, to Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on AchieveRadio.com. This is Ginny Gunther, also known as Ginny Almighty, and I'll be your host tonight, too, along with Dr. Carolyn Dean.
Phone lines are now open at 602-666-6027. That's 602-666-6027.
We'll be taking your phone calls from around the world and right here in the U.S. Welcome, everybody. We're live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on AchieveRadio.com. This is Ginny Gunther, also known as Ginny Almighty, and I'm here with Dr. Dean this evening. 2 hours of great information and talk radio about health, vitality, and well-being the natural way. Before we bring Dr. Dean on tonight, I'd just like to remind everybody that not only is Dr. Dean a medical doctor, but also a naturopath, herbalist, acupuncturist, nutritionist, and certified nutritionist. I think I said that already. Also, Dr. Dean has been in the forefront of health issues for over 30 years, having written tons of expert opinions and books, including The Magnesium Miracle, which is in its 3rd edition and available exclusively on Amazon.com. We're happy to have her with us this evening to take your calls and provide us with great information. Welcome, Dr. Dean. Hello.
I know I was waxing poetic in my first few words on mute, but they're irretrievable now. So, yeah, Ginny, I'm back. I'm raring to go. Where have you been all these weeks? What's been happening?
Woohoo! Yay! We're so happy to be back. I know. There goes my yay. Uh-oh. Somebody messed with my yay button. I'll have to come back to that. So, Carolyn, we've been on a 3-week break, and the good news is everybody missed you desperately. And the better news is we're back tonight. What say ye from your 3 weeks of adventure and respite?
It was fine. Bob and I just went gallivanting for the first time in 30 years. I realized I hadn't had a vacation in that long. And not much to say other than I had a great time. And coming back, though, is always a joy here in Maui. We just love it so much. So everything's perfect. And I know we usually start with a little segment at first. You had written about mineral supplementation, when less is more. And I know you're meaning the picometer minerals are just so therapeutically effective, even though they look like they're low potency, and that is the case. But I'll tie in the blog post of this week. I wrote it on just yesterday about magnesium preventing cardiac arrest. So I'd say that the less treatment of a simple mineral compared to 6 drugs actually will do more for a person when it comes to heart disease and this business about cardiac arrest. Now, I'd always lumped in all heart attacks as just plain heart attacks, but come to find out that the bean counters, as I call the statisticians, have been looking at the number of people who die from these electrically induced heart arrests, where the heart goes into an electrical spasm, shuts down, and turns off. And as everybody on the call, I'm sure, knows immediately, when you talk about electrical conductivity in the heart, it means electrolytes, it means minerals, and it mostly means magnesium. So we're looking at 500,000 people. That's what the Institute of Medicine is talking about in the American Heart Association. 500,000 people in the U.S. are dying every year from cardiac arrest. And when you look up the stats on the annual death rate, I'm going to say only here, but it's only 2.5 million. So that means 1/5 of all the deaths are due to this one heart condition. So this post is so important. People can go on to our 4 Facebook pages, Carolyn Dean, The Magnesium Miracle, RNA Reset, and the Complement Now Wellness Program. I've put the post on all 4 and forward it to everybody you love and even you hate, because you always have to have an adversary to keep you alive. So send this around, because we've had so much experience now with people using our Remag, Remite, Realign, and RNA drops to very much heal their heart, to get back an ejection fraction from in the teens back up to the normal 60s, to avoid heart transplant, to lower their blood pressure. All the ways that the heart can fail us can be mostly due to magnesium deficiency. So I think the less is more means that the more complete approach to health, including your heart health, lies through the Complement formulas. That's why I have to turn people away every day saying, no, I don't need to do a consult on you. Save your $200. Buy products and just follow our protocols. Call into the show if you have a question. I'm very much committed to these formulas and to telling people that. So I don't want to take your money just to tell you, okay, go and take my products. And I guess while we were traveling, I was more and more reinforced in that approach, because I kept getting emails while I was away. So that's my returning hero statement to you, Ginny.
Very good, very good. Okay, let me ask you a few clarifying, or have you make a few clarifying statements or additional statements. And one of them is less is more does refer to the pico minerals, but also let's talk a little bit about the people who write in and say that they're having these terrible detox symptoms because they've been taking too much of our product. They're not starting out slowly. Talk about that too.
Yeah. Yes, good point. And I know I have some emails lined up about that, and it's quite fascinating too, because people will, I think there's one person here who, yes, I'll just go through them as they come up, but yeah, it is quite fascinating, and we are going to continue to be talking to people, because they're always going to have some way of making things difficult for themselves. This one gentleman, an engineer actually, he said he'd been suffering from panic attacks and insomnia under a lot of stress, had normal EKG, and his heart was okay, but he had every magnesium deficiency symptom. He said, I was desperate for some relief from the anxiety and insomnia, so I started taking 500 milligrams per day of his mother's magnesium. Turns out it's a magnesium oxide, so that's the one that will cause diarrhea. He said my anxiety symptoms subsided 80% almost immediately, and I have had no insomnia since. Then he said, I immediately, however, was getting diarrhea, which hasn't stopped. So he immediately got diarrhea. It hadn't stopped. He kept taking the magnesium for 2 weeks because he felt so good. But then all of a sudden, he's saying, but now I have symptoms of magnesium overdose. I'm dizzy, I'm lightheaded, nauseated, my heart rate is much slower than usual. So what he had done is actually caused himself to lose a lot of magnesium, more than he was taking in for sure, with all that diarrhea, and then didn't know, how to diagnose himself. He thought it was an overdose. And then, yes, I said I was answering him because I thought he was, in such a panic. The diarrhea has more likely major magnesium deficiencies worse. And I said, you also seem to have dehydration symptoms, which can happen. And I'm sure he wasn't doing the sea salt water. He says, there's so little information about magnesium overdose, and I'm concerned. I said back, it just doesn't occur. Magnesium deficiency doesn't occur because you get the laxative effect unless you take lots of IV magnesium. That'll happen in the hospital when doctors, can overdose you there. Before it sort of gets to the laxative effect, they can give you too much magnesium when they don't know how to do it slowly. And then... So I'm trying to pray-see this. So he just kept going on, I'm afraid. And, in the cardiac arrest blog, I did make note of this because I think a magnesium deficiency makes people go to the ER more than anything else. I can't tell you how many. I think just about every one of the clients I've had in the past year has told me they've ended up in the ER with their anxiety and heart palpitation and panic attacks. And, of course, the doctors don't know what to do with that. And they'll go and they'll get their EKGs and their chest x-rays and their blood work and everything's fine. Then they'll be told to take a beta blocker drug or an anti-anxiety medication. So he said, I'm starting fresh with Remag. He says, I took a small dose Friday and yesterday, like half a capful. No laxative effect, but I do have some minor muscle twitching. Also had a small anxiety attack last night. So I said, and I'm sure I said in every email back and forth, read the magnesium book. It's all in there. This is the deal, people. You have to do your homework. So I said, read the Remag book again for the dosage, but of course I gave it to him, which, as anybody who's been listening knows, we start with a 1/4 teaspoon. We put it in salted water, and you sip that through the day so that your body doesn't get hit with, as a half a cap is, 150 milligrams. That's a big dose to get right inside yourself. If you're taking 500 milligrams of magnesium oxide, if it's truly all magnesium, then only 4% of that is getting into your blood. That's 20 milligrams. And who knows what little amount of that is getting into your cells, because our magnesium elemental is stabilized as ions, and those stabilized magnesium ions are what gets into the cells 100%. So if you don't have that stabilization factor put in the processing, then that 20 milligrams of magnesium oxide, who knows what little is being absorbed into the cells. And I don't know if we'll ever know because nobody's doing the research. So that was one of the big emails I got. Here's a quick other one. I think a woman writes, I'm struggling with some symptoms that start to appear when I began with your protocol. She said, I started with magnesium glycinate June 23rd. It's just a few days ago. And on June 29th, I switched to the Remag. When I was taking the glycinate version, it was 600 milligrams. Then I started the Remag and gradually built up the dosage till I reached 2 teaspoons 3 days after I started the Remite. So she was emailing us this July the 3rd. So when she says she gradually built up, I answered her, I did the math. And I said, so that immediately means to me that you jumped to the 2 teaspoons of Remag, which is 600 milligrams, within 3 days, which is way too fast. Our instructions, which are in many places, including the label, say to start with a quarter teaspoon, increase every 3 days, so you should not have reached until 24 days. Such a high intake so soon means you're likely experiencing detox symptoms from your cells dumping toxins, as all the Remag is directed to your cells and kicking out the chemicals. And then I toned down a bit, and I said, does that make sense? And she said, yes, it totally makes sense. My energy levels were so amazing that I wanted to reach a therapeutic level very fast. I'll lower my intake to the quarter and increase gradually. Thank you so much for answering. So that's the ticket, folks. It's to hydrate yourself at the same time as you're slowly detoxing and, create that balance. So is that enough about the less is more?
Yes, that is a perfect opening about less is more. Yes, and we do have a lot of information about dosing and adjusting in the Remag booklet, which we send everybody, and it's 100 and something pages long. But what I love about it is 2 things. First of all, it has a really helpful index. So you can just look through the index and look for the topic that relates to the question you're asking. And the second is you can just it's a PDF. You can go to the Find key in the edit function of your browser and just type in the word you want and click around until you find whatever you're asking about, potassium, electrolytes, this and that, dosing. I mean, it's just a great an advisory tool for people who are learning how to adjust their formulas and how to pay attention to their body and what their body needs, because it's not going to use the same amount of magnesium every single day, right, Carolyn? I mean, there'd be dietary things that might impact it, or exercise things. You might go on vacation and drink more alcohol. I mean, you just don't get into a rigid thing. You have to be very intuitive with it as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I recall one answer I gave to someone where I listed off as many as I could of the types of problems they could get into. That it can be the calcium intake. People are often taking a multiple that will have a lot of calcium, or they're taking fortified orange juice, or they're eating a lot of yogurt, which uses up their calcium. Everybody's been given vitamin D now because doctors think that's the latest kid on the block. A paleo diet, when you go on a high protein diet, can cause an extra need, or just the I guess even genetic requirements that certain people have. I mean, just before the show, there was someone who was saying they're on 3 teaspoons a day and feeling better, but still have symptoms, and when will they ever get off? And they're on the Remite and water and the I don't know if they're on the RNA. Yes, he's on the RNA drops. He says, I'm just wondering if my magnesium deficiency will ever be gone. I've been taking Remag for several months, still have to take 3 teaspoons a day. Also, is there a chance of ever getting the Remag. Oh, he wants the Remag in 16-ounce bottles, poor guy. But a few months may be not long enough to saturate. I know it really did take me about a year, maybe even more, because you've got to fill up all those gaps in places and dissolve calcium, and the magnesium has a lot of catching up to do. So a few months may not be long enough. Some people do have a genetic predisposition to either require more magnesium or they just lose more. The Remag, I feel, for some people is really the Remite is important for some people who have a type of faulty kidney function, where the sieving mechanisms of the kidney are allowing the loss of too much magnesium and not holding on to it. So the Remite is healing the kidneys, and eventually the body won't need as much Remag. I know when I started taking Remite, I needed less Remag. And then the other thing is, and I don't know if I did put it in the Magnesium Miracle book, and we hardly ever talk about it, but occasionally, maybe twice a year, someone says, oh yeah, I'm taking Mag-Phos homeopathic, and that does seem to help my magnesium retention. So people can look into that, the homeopathic magnesium phosphate, and take 2 doses of that a day and see if that wakes up their body to treat their magnesium better. So that would be the way I'd answer this gentleman's question, is just hang on, give it a year, and your body will heal.
I've never heard you mention magnesium phos before. So that's kind of a cool little thing.
Yeah, and it is in the Magnesium Miracle book. But as I said, I don't talk about it much. It's even less scientific than a lot of other things I talk about. But some people say it's helpful. So try it out if you can.
Okay, very good. And of course, people are going to say, which one do you recommend? And you don't have do you have a brand or anything that you recommend, or you're just? Oh,
I like Boiron, Boiron, but they're all very similar. They're all produced in a similar way. They're pellets. You put them under your tongue. You don't eat or drink for 15 minutes after, that type of thing.
Very good. Awesome. Very good. Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on AchieveRadio.com. We're halfway through our first hour. We'll be here with you for 2 hours this evening. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in here in the U.S. and around the world. We'll just run through a few ground rules on how to get through, make your phone calls, get in, talk with Dr. Dean, and get the information that you need. If you're on the line or you'd like to call in, the number 602-666-6027. What you'd want to do is once you get into the call, hit *5 on your keypad. That will raise your hand and let me know that you have a question or comment. We'll put you on the line with Dr. Dean when we go to our public phone calls, which will be here in just a minute. If you have a quick question that you want to ask or something to have be responded to through text or email, you can just use the InQuick messaging board here at AchieveRadio.com Studio A. It's on the right-hand side of the page. Type in your name, your location, and your question. We'll read it over the air, and Dr. Dean will answer it. And if you're listening through the archives and you have a question or a follow-up from the show, you can email support@rnareset.com. That's support, SUPPORT, at rnareset.com, and we'll answer your question on the following week. So that's the scoop on the Poob. We've got all kinds of people with us this evening tuning in. Happy that Dr. Dean's back. And maybe we should take some calls, Carolyn, and then we'll go into our mailbag and other topics of interest.
Yes, very good.
All right, very good. Let's go to area code 417-417. 417. You're on the line with Dr. Carolyn Dean. If you could state your name and then also your question or comment this evening.
Would that be me, Linda?
That would be you, Linda. Go ahead, please, love.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, I've been listening, and I've just kind of gotten so involved with what you're saying that I've kind of gotten down that track. But I will tell you,
Linda, it's Carolyn. Will you speak up a bit, Linda? You sound like you're way far away in a deep tunnel.
Hold on a second. Hold on. Just one teeny second here. Maybe I can raise the volume of that. Is this going to be better?
Not too much, but just try to yell a little louder, and we just want it on the recording.
Well, Well, I am looking for some hope tonight, a path. I have ordered the product. I did find you by looking for things because I'm an alternative gal and always have been. But I'm a caregiver and have been under a lot of situational stress for a long period of time. And my little heart is showing it because I went to the ER room with my heart not sounding right, you know. And they thought, oh, you drink caffeine, you do this, that, whatever. But no. So anyway, they did a Holter monitor, and they came back and said the word, I have not seen a cardiologist, not till another, middle of July here. But the report that came back said, and I got a call from just like my regular primary, that said he wanted to put me on Coumadin because of episodes of AFib and tachycardia or something like that. And I don't know the degree, but I just know for the past 6-7 weeks, my heart just kind of is not like it's normally, And I just started on the product about, let's see, I think I got them in Friday. So I just started on them, but prior to finding out about you, I had done the 2 weeks of oil foot bath of magnesium. And so I did that. And then I just started on the product just here over the weekend and then today. And I haven't had any, I'm not noticing any side effects, but I did half teaspoon and then first day or so, but this morning I did half teaspoon throughout the morning and then half teaspoon this afternoon. And only 3/4 teaspoon total all day of the Remind. And then one realign. And so I don't know, do I have, and I do not, I'm just searching for a positive hope that I can avoid the medical community. I don't want to say anything here, I shouldn't, but I am scared of those people. And I want to be away from that. I don't want I refuse, I just didn't do it.
Yes, I know everybody says the same, Linda, but yes, and I've just written a book on atrial fibrillation that will be out in a week or so that goes through all this. It seems they're diagnosing more and more atrial fibrillation and trying to give out that blood thinner and other ones, but I mean, there is hope. Ginny can send you Steve's testimonial where he ended up on several drugs for AFib and then on the protocol with the Remite. I don't even know if he took the Realign, but I want him to. He was able to wean off his medications and feels fine. And we've got probably now hundreds of people who've been doing this with their AFib because what happens in the medical community is they really don't see people getting better because the more drugs they put people on to try to control the symptoms, then the more magnesium deficient they become and the more symptomatic they become. So it's a completely losing battle. It's a battle that will never be won. But do you have a specific question, or you're just looking for reassurance?
I would like to think, am I on the right track? Are there other people like me that made this decision with that kind of...
Well, I just answered those two questions, yes and yes.
And you did. And can stress cause that, or...
Absolutely. Every time you're under any sort of physical, emotional, mental, any sort of stress, your body uses up magnesium through your adrenal glands, through your muscles, everywhere in the body. You see, it's being used for 700 to 800 different enzyme systems. So every time your body revs up for anything, you need magnesium. And it's something that's not in the food anymore. Did you get the REMAG booklet, and have you read that yet?
No, nothing came with it. All I have is what is very good on the Internet. But I'm thinking...
Well, what you do, what Ginny was talking about is a book. You see the information package that came, which would tell you to go back to the RNA Reset website under the info link and download a 100-page booklet. We're not going to print up a 100-page booklet and send it out to everyone.
So not a literal, just look on the internet. Yes, I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, under the INFO link, there's a book about REMAG and one about Relight, and it'll give the testimonials and try to answer all your questions there, okay?
And then, so I get the feeling then I'm on the right track from everything I can.
Oh, yes. I mean, I don't know you. You're not my patient, but all I can say is it certainly helped my heart palpitations the first time in 25 years that I was able to get rid of them with the REMAG. I mean, that's why I had to create it. It's very selfish. I needed to have something that would help mine, so I'm just passing it on.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that. I just feel with the amount of things I've had going on, which I'm getting ready to end the caregiving job, but it's for family members, so I think I'll be able to unload a lot of physical stress. There's for Parkinson's patients, I've got to do lifting and everything, and it's just incredible stress. So I just have a deep down feeling that it's due to this stress, although I can't find anything on the AFib website that says stress. It says it's something really wrong with your heart. And I just can't believe that, So I'm really hopeful here that I am on the right track. I'm very happy to have met you. And I guess I'll just continue. I worried today when I heard your call, maybe I'm taking too much. I just started today with half teaspoon of morning water, half teaspoon in the afternoon, and only 3/4 total of the Remite. So I don't know, do I cut?
No, you're fine. I mean, it's rare that that happens to people, that they take too much and get stirred up. It's rare, but we're going to talk about it here because we don't want people to have side effects. So we just like people to go slow. I mean, we've had people who've taken 2 teaspoons right away and just been fine and continued on. But I'm not going to tell everybody to do that. We have to be very careful because we're dealing with all kinds of different health conditions out there. But if you've gone on for several days now, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and you're fine, then you'll continue to be fine.
Yeah, I'm just fine.
The problem is with some people is they'll take a jolt of it and they'll feel fine maybe the first couple of doses, and then they'll feel worse, so they'll stop. And then they'll be afraid to start it. But when they stop, their body's gone into a place where it wants it now, and they'll actually start getting symptoms of withdrawal because they've stopped it. So what we keep telling people is just, start gradually, and then from now on, just wait for 3 days before you increase it by 1/4, and then slowly build up. Okay?
Okay, well, we're closing out here in the conversation, but I guess one last thing is that I am gathering from the conversation, what I'm hearing tonight is that do not be discouraged. It may take a while for the heart to come back into line. Like you told me with your palpitation. I think I heard you.
Yes, that's true. For some people, it can be overnight. I have a very good testimonial and story in the atrial fibrillation book where it took one person 9 months as she went up and down in symptoms, but there were always reasons for it. You know, when you get into an intestinal flu and you have diarrhea, then you can lose your magnesium. And if you don't know that, and if you don't increase your magnesium, then your symptoms can return. And, you know, I'm just trying to educate people to know that when these things happen, you can have a setback. It doesn't mean the magnesium isn't working. You just need more.
How would I know when to increase it from a teaspoon, though? How would you know?
I'm saying every 3 days you increase by 1/4 teaspoon. Get that Remag booklet. You know, we're going over a lot of very basic information, so I do want to move on, but you will find your answers in the booklet.
Thank you so much. That's
You're welcome, Linda, and be sure and call back. You know, if questions come up, we're here to answer them.
I'll keep you posted. Now that I've got my groundwork done, we'll be more direct. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, very good. Thanks, Linda, for calling.
Bye.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on AchieveRadio.com. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in this evening. We're on the phones and taking phone callers. The lines are open at 602-666-6027, and you're welcome to call in, talk with Dr. Dean this evening. If you're on the line and have a question or comment, you want to hit *5 on your keypad. That will raise your hand and let me know you have something you want to share or say to Dr. Dean, and we'll put you on the phone. Otherwise, we can press on with our topics this evening. And one of the things I wanted to do is just say also email support, SUPPORT, at rnareset.com if you don't have a copy of the Remag book, and we will be happy to send it to you. That's the address you can use. Very good. All right, let's see. Let's press on, Carolyn. What else shall we chat about?
I'm really hankering to get to this mailbag. You know that.
Okay, I want to do that, but I was just thinking, we didn't say the testimonial that the gentleman wrote in this morning.
Well, which one? And you can go ahead and do that if you like.
Okay. Well, you were talking about AFib, and this is the testimonial that went in this morning. Dear Dr. Dean, I bought Remag a week ago. My heart was in sinus, but I took some anyway, and I didn't feel any change. Today, July 5th, I was watching TV. I got excited during a movie, and my heart started to beat faster, and then I went into AFib. Very unusual since I've been in sinus for a long period of time. Now, I remembered somehow what Dr. Dean wrote about stopping a palpitation. I poured a teaspoon of Remag into a bottle, filled it with 4 ounces of water, and drank all of it. Nothing happened for about 10 or 15 seconds, then boom, immediately back into sinus. I told my wife I couldn't stop talking about the swiftness and completeness of the Remag action. I am writing this email about 10 minutes after the miracle. A miracle! A miracle! I believe.
That's going to have to go in my AFib book. I better recall it and put it in. Yes, I must have overlooked that. So I'll get you to resend that to me. So that's what instead of doing the paddles on the chest and the cardioversion, or instead of a catheter ablation where they put the rod up your groin veins to the heart and kill the tissue around your pacemaker so that you won't AFib. You just take a teaspoon of Remag. That's amazing.
Yes, isn't that great? Yes, yeah. So we were talking about AFib, and the gal was asking about different things. And this is what we're talking about tonight, is you've got to figure out how to make it work for you. There are some basics, and the basics are we do suggest, of course, that you do the pink Himalayan salt water, and we suggest you start and build up. But we also suggest that if you've got an episode like that, you just slam some down and let it immediately work through your system. I mean, isn't that fantastic?
It is. It's like, when the heart is fibrillating, it's in a spasm. And, mine, I would get palpitations. I don't know if I had AFib. I just knew that when I went to my doctor, who I'd interned with, he just wanted to make sure I didn't have mitral valve prolapse, and he just thought I had premature either ventricular or atrial contraction. So I just went from there. But when your heart is palpitating like that, you think of it as going into a cramp, as if your calf muscle is going into a cramp, which I also used to get, Charlie horses in the leg. So if you give yourself that 300 milligrams, it goes right to the heart muscles and softens up that muscle and alleviating the symptoms. So, I mean, that to me is a true indication that his atrial fibrillation was caused by magnesium deficiency.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing, too, is plan on using Remag forever. That's what I say, So like the guy, how long am I going to be doing this? And I have to say that our good little friend Ryan, Carolyn, who who that is, emailed me this morning, and he got busy and preoccupied with life, and he forgot to order Remag for a couple months. And I know. And he said he went to the ER, just like you said they do, and GI issues, fever, rapid heartbeat, and fatigue, and they gave him a CT scan and blood work and told him he was magnesium deficient, and then they put him on an IV.
Oh, unbelievable. Oh, my gosh, Ryan, slap yourself.
I know.
Oh, that's terrible. Oh,
I know, Ryan.
Gosh.
4. I mean, my guy who's like by 1, 2, and 4. I mean, he said he just got busy and preoccupied, and he ran out, and he kept saying he was going to get more, and then he kept, and then the next thing you know, and obviously his body didn't like it, because it didn't take him long to get himself into that state. I don't think people really fully understand or can appreciate. I mean, we are all frogs in a big boiling pot of hot water. I don't think people really understand how our environment is working, how our body is doing the best that it can do to keep up with everything that's going on, and the way that it is requiring things like magnesium and minerals. So here can our good friend Ryan be, who's such a tremendous advocate of Remag and our products, and then be a couple months out of some Remag, and the next thing you know, he's in the hospital getting an IV. I mean, he wrote very repentantly this morning, God bless his heart, but you just have to put it in your budget and plan on, having it. I mean, it's just, it just becomes a fact of your daily lifestyle. It is a lifestyle.
Right, and this is what Linda kept asking, is it stress? And yeah, absolutely. It's stress, and it's the fact that you don't get it in your food, and you have to take this Remag as if it were food. And if you take the lesser, cheaper, so-called cheaper forms, you're really fooling yourself. I mean, when I did the math and the numbers on even the milligrams that you're really getting with the Remag, I mean, even the best of the magnesiums out there, you're getting twice as much with Remag. And that's not even taking into account the fact that other forms really don't get into the cells like the Remag does, because of the way the Remag is formulated to stabilize the ion so nothing else grabs at it while it's trying to get into the cells.
Yep, absolutely, yep. So Ryan's a believer. Of course, he was back in there ordering a case this morning, and we shipped it out to him right away. God bless his little heart. But this is what happens, too, is when you get into the and it's not about, getting everybody buying our products or whatever. It's about once you feel good, keep it, sustain it. Remain consistent, remain faithful, because your body requires it. I mean, it's a non-negotiable. Not only does it require for all the enzyme functions, Carolyn, but I saw something the other day about how magnesium is required for 3,700 different protein functions in the body. So,
right.
I mean, the metabolism of proteins, which is the cause and movement of all life, is, pretty imperative. So you've got to have it for protein metabolism and enzyme management in all kinds of aspects of the body. I mean, it's just really, really important. Yeah,
Perfect.
Really important. All right, live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on Achieve Radio. Star 5 on your keypad if you have a question or comment. Lines are open at 602-666-6027. And we will go to our mailbag in the absence of compelling and fascinating people who want to call in and talk with Dr. Dean. They're probably just so happy to hear you back, Carolyn. They're just like, oh, let me just lay here in the luxury.
What we do... I'm so sorry to interrupt, but yes, what we do is we tend to answer questions before they're asked. That's all there is to it. I know we do. So here's a great question I wanted to get at from Susanna. She said, now that we are in the midst of summer and at the pinnacle of hot and humid weather, where I live, the average humidity level is 75% and temperature 95 degrees. All one has to do is step outside and the sweating begins. Imagining that to a factor of 10 times more during a run, which is what she does. I know I'm depleting my body of minerals in my sweat. What would be the most effective way to mitigate this loss? So she said, right now I'm putting 2 capfuls of both Remag and Remite in a glass of water in the morning and at night with 1 Realign capsule. So that, I mean, to me that sounds like 4 teaspoons of Remag and 4 teaspoons of Remite, but I would have to clarify with her. In the past, heat and humidity has significantly sapped my energy. I've recently seen the same effect from the heat, but not nearly to the extent as before, now that I've been taking your complement products for 3 years. I also drink water with sea salt, though admittedly not at the rate of half my body weight. I want to maintain my saturation levels and not regress from the effect of excessive sweating. So I answered, with that degree of sweating, I often tell people to double their current intake. But if you're already taking 4 teaspoons a day of each, that seems like enough. But I think you have to at least get half your body weight in water with the necessary salt. So when you're not taking enough water, then you're not getting your sea salt and you're losing your sodium, which can make you a bit dizzy and your adrenal fatigue, a little bit of adrenal weakness can set in. So I said, so start there and also sip through the day instead of taking it in hits. What she's doing by taking 2 teaspoons of Remag at once is she's saturating her cells for maybe half an hour, and the extra is just running off into her kidneys. So she's losing it, wasting it. So if you want to hold on and get saturated, you go back to putting it in a liter of water. You don't have to put it in all your bottles of water. You just keep that one marked as your Remag Remite bottle. You have your salt in it as well, and you sip that one through the day and also drink your other water. So there.
Yeah, absolutely. So there. Yay, Susanna. Yay. All right, very good.
I know. Sometimes I stop too fast for you. I should slow down and let you know I'm coming to the end of my dynamic answer.
Your dynamic. That's right. Your dynamic presentation. Very good. Awesome. Mm-hmm. All right. What shall we do? More mailbag questions? Do you have some more other good ones tucked in here?
Sure. Love it. Okay, so I'm just keeping track of the timing here for you. So this is from someone who says, okay, I have had heart palpitations a lot of years, made worse by coffee, which I quit. I have heart palpitations, Charlie horses and calves and toes. Bought your Remag, and oddly enough, when I take the Remag in the morning, I seem to have more heart palpitations. I've tested it several times, seems to be a correlation. So I said, when this happens to people, it means that they have not introduced the Remag slowly enough. Some people even have to start with a few drops. Put it in a liter of water, sip it through the day. You have to take sea salt or Himalayan salt in the water. You have to drink half your body weight in water. Bremite will help balance out the other minerals. Realign can help with the detoxing. You may benefit from RNA drops. You have to read the Remag book to familiarize yourself with how to properly take the Remag. So it's another one of these situations. I don't think anybody's reading the Remag book, actually, Ginny, until we yell at them and tell them to read the Remag book. So I said to her, I've given you every possibility here, but it may just take a little tweaking to make things right with your heart. So she wrote back and said, thank you so much for the information, the attachments. I can see I was not taking it right. So there you go. I think people just get it. They think, oh, well, a teaspoon, that's nothing. Put it down and then just stir things up.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the Remag booklet is not maybe being used as fully as it could be. We'll have to have a sidebar on how to maybe have that be a little different, because it is a tremendous resource, and I've gotten used to just searching it myself and formulating answers for people when I know they're in the book, or even telling them what page to go to. But there's some days that just don't have the luxury of doing that. So,
hey, Carolyn,
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Bob. Hi, Bob.
Hey, guys. There's just too much. Yeah, how you doing, Ginny? There's too much seduction on the Internet. People are too busy being informed with confusion to bother reading a book. There's too much free stuff to click on, and therefore people become stupider as they learn more and more about nonsense.
Yeah, I know.
Why has Carolyn posted? She stopped giving clients, stopped having new clients, and post the answer, and that'll sit there for the next 2 years until new products come out, or 1 year, whenever they come out. But the point is, she's gotten so convincing and convinced that she just says, here's the answer, don't bother me.
Yeah, and here's something that I could threaten to do, Ginny. I could say, you cannot be on the show and get a question answered unless you've read the Remag book. How's that?
That would be good.
Oh yeah. Next week, the blog, the poster you put out announcing the show should say, have you read your Remag book yet?
That's very good. That's right. That's very good. Well, I know we are of making some videos for people, to Bob's point, so that they can have the instructions, open the box, get it out, here's the teaspoon, here's the water, here's the salt, here's how you do it, and maybe that will help too. I don't know what it is, other than maybe it's such a departure for people to not be told what to do by, when they go to the doctor and they get their prescription and all this. And maybe they feel like they're out on the skinny branches so much already, just trying to do something like take magnesium instead of a pill, that they need the reassurance or the interaction or something. You know what I mean?
Exactly. They phone up for reassurance to make sure I'm real. Why take the advice of someone they've never met? Whereas on the other hand, they go into the ER at the drop of a hat. And I'm not trying to put people down, but I avoid the hospital at all costs. But when you go into the hospital, you're asking for a doctor or a nurse to put up the wrong IV, give you the wrong medicine, browbeat you into taking blood thinners when you may not need them, and all the things that can happen in the hospital. I appreciate when people have been investigated. I don't like to take clients who have not had their EKG and their ultrasounds and everything, because when they've had this clean bill of health, then we can work with them. But, yeah, people really have been coddled too much, and they've put their chemical body in the hands of medical doctors who just want to treat it with chemicals. That's all that's going on here.
Yep, agree 100%. Very good. Well, we're live with Dr. Dean here on AchieveRadio.com, and, of course, Carolyn is back in the saddle and laying it out for everybody, just the way she's supposed to, reminding everybody be responsible for your health, be responsible for your formulas, and now be responsible for the Remag booklet. There will be quizzes. There will be a test at the end, right? We'll start testing people.
Yeah.
Very good. And also Jean wrote in, and we can't decide. Jean, is this a question? What about rashes from sweating in the heat? I use Remag and Renew, also Remag on mosquito bites and Renew on nastier bite, spider tick, etc. But I can't decide if that's a question because it seems more like a statement. So go ahead and send
well, if you say, what about rashes? Sometimes heat rashes get worse if you have a lot of yeast. So you look at yeast overgrowth. And for heat rashes, you can luxuriate in magnesium and clay baths.
Very good. We'll be right back, everybody. Brief station identification, and we're coming right back for hour 2.
Radio, holistic radio, spiritual radio. This is AchieveRadio.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/AchieveRadio.
We return now live with Dr. Carolyn Dean, along with your host, Ginny Gunther, here on AchieveRadio.com. Skype us at ar.call.in. That's ar.call.in.
Okay, we're back with Dr. Dean here at AchieveRadio.com. Again, you can call or Skype into the show, 602-666-6027, or we will just keep answering questions before they're even asked. Right, Carolyn?
Yes, right, Ginny. We're going to have to take longer breaks. I can barely make it to the ladies' room and grab a drink of water, and I'm back.
Yes, I didn't understand.
Let's get Dave Neufeld, who has produced our intro and outro. Let's get him to give one of his songs, give us a 30-second song blast. That would be cool.
Yes, we'll have to. Yeah, I think that was a little bit of a fast turnaround, but I think we're all a little rusty tonight because Bill's doing the commercial breaks, and he's back at the soundboard, and we're all just clicking along. But yes, a little bit more of a break at the top of the hour. We'll work that out so you can get where you need to go and get back. All right, very good. Let's go to California and take some phone calls, Carolyn, and then we'll go back to our mailbag and other things as they occur. Area code 650. You're live with Dr. Carolyn Dean. If you could state your name and then your question or comment.
Hey, everybody. It's Lisa calling from California, not China this time.
Hey, Lisa. Looking forward to seeing you in August and having a little visit with you in Maui. We're going to take you to the Azaka brunch down here on Wailea Beach.
Yeah, well, you know I've been doing my happy dance since I've heard that. So we are very excited and can't wait to meet you and to thank you personally for everything that you do.
Oh, thanks, Lisa. Very good.
No, seriously. I mean, you give so much information, and I just had to call in because, number one, I missed you the past 3 weeks. Number two, I always want to thank you for the kindness and the generosity of all the information that you share with us. And I also wanted to let you know that I have read everything that you have written, everything that you have sent out an email, and it's incredible information. So you are an amazing resource. And I, too, believe that you are the answer. Like when anybody has an issue, it's just you. I just send them to your site. And I'm like, if you got to take these products, and that's it. It's the answer. I really believe that's the case.
Thank you.
Anyway, it's I don't know what I would do without your products. So, and I'm so grateful for them. So again, thank you. And then I did have a couple questions, if it's okay to ask.
Of course, of course.
All right.
Go
ahead. One's for Bob. I think Bob might get a kick out of this. And maybe he could help me. What happens when, for some reason, you just keep forgetting to take your RNA drops? What does that mean? And like before, I was just like couldn't miss out. And then all of a sudden I go in these phases where it's like, oh, my God, I forgot. Oh, my God, I forgot to take it. What would you do, and what does it mean? Anything? Worth talking?
Yeah, you're getting so happy in your chemical body that you're getting lost in your chip body and the other bodies. So take an empty RNA bottle and put it on the bathroom sink or someplace slightly invasive. So you're bumping into it. That'll remind you, oh, I got to take my drops.
Okay. All right. That's perfect. And then
actually, I've been meaning to ask my counselor, Bob, this. I've ended up just taking it once a day, and to the point where I'll take a double dose in the morning just because I know I'll just not take it later on in the day. Is that okay, Dr. Bob?
No.
I should be taking it twice a day?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's why I'm totally falling apart.
Yeah, that's why you're a rather basket case since you had your vacation.
Okay, I've got my answer. You've got your answer from Bob. What else have you got for us, Lisa?
Well, you talked one time about making the vitamin C, and I know that you're in the process of making a calcium product. And I read something about making vitamin C with orange peels, drying them out, and just blending them up. And I also read something about making calcium out of eggs, where you put it in a mixture and it leaches out the calcium from the eggshell, and you drink that. And I was just curious if you had any opinion on those two methods. Are they worth pursuing at all?
What I would worry about is if you're going to get organic orange peels, you really don't know the amount you'd be getting. The rose hips that I recommend for the liposomal vitamin C, I really don't know the exact dosage of those two either, but I think it's much more concentrated in the vitamin C complex. The thing about orange peels, it's mostly concentrated in the bioflavonoids, not the ascorbic acid. The inside of the orange, the juicy parts, that's the ascorbic acid part. I just think the rose hips are more concentrated and complete. The eggshells, I'd be concerned because you really don't know where what those chickens have been pecking on to make their shells. I've been getting recently from my biodynamic farmer duck eggs, and they do taste better than chicken eggs. They're just a little bit stronger tasting of the egg yolks, and the egg yolks are just huge. They take up like 7/8 of the egg. There's hardly any weight. And the egg shells, I mean, I have to hammer them open. They're so thick. So if I ever did anything with eggs, eggshells, I'd use duck eggs. So I don't think you can get eggshells where you actually know how much calcium there is. I don't know what form of calcium it is in the eggshells, if it's just calcium carbonate. But even with that, you have the problem of does the body absorb a calcium carbonate, or is it still the 4% absorbed like any other calcium compound? So I'm not in favor of either one of those.
Okay. I knew that you would help steer me. Our farmer's market just got some raw goat milk, and I've been making kefir. Would that be a good source of calcium?
It would, indeed. Absolutely. I think a glass of kefir has 300 to 400 milligrams of calcium. So not that, maybe you don't want 2 cups a day, but 2 cups a day would give you your daily amount that your body would like to work with.
Okay, awesome. And then one last one.
And the thing is, let me just finish this, Lisa. The fermentation process in the kefir, I think, makes the milk more bioavailable. Yogurt and kefir seem to give you a calcium that the body absorbs. I've told the story many times. When I eat a couple of cups of yogurt for a couple of days, my heart starts jumping because there's so much calcium. I'm pushing out my magnesium. So that type of food source of calcium, I think, is the best absorbed.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm so excited that we got raw goat milk.
Oh my God!
So I've been having a lot of fun with it. And then the vitamin C, the liposomal, I just haven't gotten myself to buy all the stuff for it and the machine that you need. The one thing, I did, yeah. So I figured, but the one thing I bought was, and I'm glad you told me about the orange peel, so I can cross that off my list. But the one thing I bought was camu camu. Do you find that that's just as good as the liposomal, or really I should just shoot for the liposomal?
I don't know much about camu camu. What you'd have to do is, just look up camu camu as I'm doing right now, and camu camu vitamin C content, and see if you can find something that gives you. I can't see it directly here. Do comparison, see if you can find charts on that.
Okay.
Because as I said, I don't know much about camu camu.
Okay, perfect. Again, thank you so much, and both of us cannot wait to meet you. And thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes, I'm very much looking forward to meeting you and Christina. Thank you for calling in, and give her a hug for me.
Don't get too excited, Lisa, because we will give you some surprises.
Okay, good.
Bob
you know
will.
What? Anything goes with us, so no worries.
Okay.
Looking forward to it.
Aloha.
We're like Ion. You never know what's going to happen.
It's not true. I mean, maybe you, but not me.
I am, yeah. Not so much count. She'll bounce off any disruption I do.
Okay, Lisa, thanks,
wait.
boss. Okay,
aloha.
Aloha.
Mahalo.
Oh, stop it. You act like you know what you're saying.
Where's Judy? Why isn't Judy laughing? Oh, there's Judy. I've never said mahalo before.
I knew that. I'm like, oh, my God, he's really stretching now. That was great. Very good, Bob. Very good.
I know. Let me tell you this little story. That while we were traveling, there was a real disruption in one of the hotels, and I was dressing down the staff and when we were leaving and explaining to them how ridiculous they were, and Bob all of a sudden started placating me and explaining to the staff this and that, and I looked at him and I said, "You're being the sane one now?" I mean, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I was apologizing for her behavior, and I was taking their side.
It just shocked me right out of my whatever anger pit I was in. I think, "You're the sane one now?"
I was a soft cop this time.
Very good. That's awesome, Bob. Well, there's quadrophenia for you.
Yeah,
Bob.
she'd never seen me do that before. Yeah, I've never been allowed to have that position, but there was not, because she usually doesn't get mad at anything.
Very good. That's awesome. Awesome. Well, we're live with Dr. Carolyn Dean and Bob tonight on the AchieveRadio.com. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Let's see. Phone caller, *5, if you're on the line and have a question or comment. Those lines are open at 602-666-6027 this evening. The follow-up question from Jean Carolyn was, Carolyn, will prescriptive also help with skin issues, or is the clay bath the key for skin issues resulting from yeast overgrowth?
Well, the Prescripticist is going to help colonize the intestines with good bacteria, which doesn't allow the yeast to gain a foothold. So that's sort of the therapy. The Prescripticist is to help detox the yeast toxins and heal the skin. So they do two different things, and they work together.
Very awesome. Awesome. Very good. All right, let's go back to our mailbag and see what other treats we have in store, what other fabulous and fascinating topics we can talk about.
Okay. Now, I think we talked about this before, but I just love this, and I did not seem to have it in our radio show list. So this got put on Facebook a while back, and this person says, "Your products have increased my family's health tremendously. Before Remag, Remite, and RNA drops, I was dealing with undiagnosed atrial fibrillation or heart arrhythmia palpitations. Sometimes it would go on for hours, sometimes into the next day, draining every ounce of energy in my body. I no longer have any episodes of this kind anymore. My wife had open heart surgery 2.5 years ago, mostly due to hypertension and obstruction of the coronary arteries. After being on Remag and Remite for several months, her blood pressure has dropped from 189/95 to 110/60. This is fantastic because the doctors kept telling her she was in the high-risk category for a stroke. Her last echo showed a healthy and strong heart with an ejection fraction of 60%. Her last ultrasound of her carotid artery in her neck showed a 30 to 40% lessening of calcified occlusions. This is all amazingly good news." So I think I might have brought it into a conversation before about the person with showing that the calcifications in the arteries could be cleaned up with a Remag and Relight instead of having to go in and ram mechanical tools up your vessel. So I think that's an important testimonial that will be documented on the archives.
Very good. Yes, absolutely.
The next response. Okay, by accident, I picked up a phone call from a lovely woman in London who's on all the complement formulas. She tells me her asthma is gone, she's working on her blood pressure, but her doctor was saying her B12 is high and told her to stop taking all her vitamins. So using this letter as this conversation as a backdrop, I wanted to say a word about B12 because we do have B12, methylated B12, in our Realign formula. So you may find when you go for blood testing And if you ever have a B12 test done, it will be high because you're taking it every day. But B12 is very safe in the quantities you're taking. It's a water-soluble vitamin, so your body will lose any excess that you don't need. Toxicities are rare to non-existent. No adverse effects have reported with excessive consumption from either food or supplements, according to the Office of Dietary Supplements. In addition, the Institute of Medicine says there's no upper limit for B12, and adequate intakes of B12 are necessary for the production of red blood cells and to prevent anemia. B12 is also important for neurological function and the synthesis of your DNA. And our Realign also has the methylated folate, and B12 and folate go together to help make the red blood cells be perfect. So if you get questions on people saying they have high B12 levels, you can assure them that that's quite normal for taking a supplement like that. You know, they're just picking up what the B12 you took the day before, and it is not a problem.
Good, very good. And what's the other thing that comes up with Realign a lot is the people who are concerned that they can only take like little teeny tiny amount of folate or something because of this MTHFR thing. And what is the answer to that?
Well, nobody really knows. There's a lot of theorizing going on over the internet about the B vitamins. The B vitamins are water soluble, so they don't build up in the body. A lot of B complex vitamins that are not methylated, the very synthetic ones, they're 25, 50, 100 milligrams. I mean, they just kept upping and upping. When they didn't feel the Bs were working, you just need more. They didn't realize it had to be methylated in some cases. So I find if you just are taking under 25 milligrams of the B vitamins, your body gets what it needs and urinates out the rest. We have some people on the Realign who say their urine turns a bit yellow, or it's whatever technicolor, yellow, greenish. But some people say they don't notice it at all. Our riboflavin 5-phosphate methylated B2 is 6 milligrams. A pyridoxal 5-phosphate to B6 is 8 milligrams. The methyl B12 is 500 micrograms. The methylated folate is 990 micrograms. So those are the amounts we have if you're taking that one pill twice a day. I mean, the maximum of B6 you're getting is 16 milligrams. And some people say to treat B6 deficiency you need 100 milligrams, which I don't agree with. A high-dose B6 would have to be a synthetic, and it's going to be harmful. So people will read something about, people being harmed with high-dose vitamin B, but that's synthetic. What we have in the Realign is the methylated Bs that the body can handle, and they're low potency.
Once again, superior intelligence and wisdom in every capsule, every bottle, every design. It's very, very cool how it all works together and it doesn't overwhelm the body and cause it to be, toxic from getting things that it doesn't need, or just, having to eliminate things. And yeah, it's just fantastic. Just fantastic. Very good. And what about the thing about iodine too? Are we going to talk about that in the Relight? Because that's another common question. People seem to freak out about iodine.
I know, and when you're not a chemist, it's hard to know what's real about this whole iodine business. And I've spoken out many times about this high dosing of iodine is very medicinal, and people can get themselves into trouble. But I thought I'd go through what I've written on iodine and my experience and look at the whole picture and maybe start off next week with iodine.
That sounds fantastic. Okay, wonderful. All right, very good.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And going on, can we go on with the mailbag?
Yes, please.
Someone is saying, I've had horrible insomnia to the point I don't sleep at all for 3 days. Then when I fall asleep, it's after 3 a.m. I've been taking Relight, and I've been finding more sleep. Is it possible the minerals are helping? Is there a maximum amount that I can take in a day? And she said, I've had a difficult time with Remag, causing my interstitial cystitis to flare. Can you comment on this? So what I wrote back to this woman was that the Remag was probably detoxifying her bladder cells. Interstitial cystitis is a situation of a kind of a toxic bladder that's sensitive to chemicals and sometimes foods that may be a bit calcified and irritated and inflamed. Intestinal candidiasis can be a factor as well, and definitely a magnesium deficiency. So I went through the routine of telling her to start with a couple of drops, and certainly the Relight can be helpful, and it's going to have it does have a little bit of magnesium in there already, so she is getting a bit of magnesium. So I just told her to go slowly and keep us posted.
Awesome. Good.
And the next mailbag at 2:24 Hawaii time. I'm writing regarding my brother's condition. He's 17, has had seizures for 10 years, been prescribed 2 anti-seizure medications, although his doctors say his seizures are almost 98% gone. Kids do grow out of seizures, it seems. Been over a year since he's had any. She told me the drugs he's on. Be helpful if you could suggest a diet plan and recommend how much longer my brother needs to continue his medications. Of course, I couldn't give any sort of prescriptive advice. I just said that, when people get saturated with their magnesium, they tend to not need their medications and not have seizures. But you see the bind people are in with seizure symptoms. I mean, he's been a year without, but the doctors will be afraid to take him off in case his seizures come back. And actually, there's a situation where you can have withdrawal seizures when you come off these medications. So that's why I keep telling people, if they want to wean off medications, be sure to get on all the complement formulas, get saturated with your magnesium, get real healthy, and then slowly wean off your medications. So that was my answer there.
Very good.
And the next is, someone said, I have psoriatic arthritis. That's kind of a psoriasis that affects the joints, and I've been diagnosed with celiac disease. I started taking magnesium a week ago. Now, I don't know if she meant Remag. Though my skin is cleared up by going off dairy and meats, I wondered if magnesium will make gluten and lectin-based foods more tolerated. Well, if she's celiac, it's best to avoid gluten and then, get that all sorted out before trying to add those foods. I wanted to mention this email because we did get a note from someone who who said, oh yes, it was Naomi in the UK. I put a testimonial that she sent about a woman, I don't know if it was in Scotland, who took the Remag for, I don't know if it was insomnia or something, but she was amazed to find out that her psoriasis was clearing up just taking the Remag. So, I wanted to mention that. The gluten sensitivity, I do talk a lot about that. I put that in the atrial fibrillation book, how the glutens, glutamates, MSG need to be broken down by magnesium in Remag and the B6 in Realign before they get to the brain and trigger an irritation in the brain that causes symptoms. So certainly the magnesium in our Realign product can help cases of gluten sensitivity, but I think you would have to go more to the RNA drops to really help with that. RNA drops are made from barley sprouts, but they test consistently to be negative for gluten, so there's something about them that is digesting the gluten. So I would tell this person with these two, really strong, difficult diseases. Some people would say they're incurable, but they are curable. I would tell this person to go on all the complement formulas. So that's my answer there. And that's how I'm going to end my little speeches, Ginny, so you'll know I'm finished.
And what I wanted to ask about the celiac disease is, is that really like a disease, or is that just you can't have gluten? I mean, do you have to call it a disease, or is it really a disease? Am I getting,
Well, it is. It's a genetic condition. It's an autoimmune condition in genetically predisposed people. But I think the predisposition can be triggered by mineral deficiency. It's like, if and when they do studies and show that, as they're saying here, it's estimated to affect 1 in 100 people. Well, I don't see 1 in 100 people suffering from celiac. So are the ones that really suffer the ones who are already run down and mineral deficient? Because autoimmune diseases, they seem to be kind of epidemic, but I know that they're related to yeast overgrowth and mineral deficiency. But there's many layers of what's going on with celiac disease because we've put a lot more gluten into our diet in the past couple of decades by the way we've processed our foods or hybridized our wheat and grains to make it more hardy and more tolerant to bugs and parasites, etc. They've bred B-R-E-D wheat so that it will be stronger, and that has meant it's just vastly increased the amount of gluten. So we're up against more gluten in the diet, and I forget where I wrote this. Maybe it's again in the atrial fibrillation book. I said, when you look at the American Heart Association, just when alternative doctors have been saying for a decade, just stop all grains for Pete's sakes, the Heart Association is finally saying, well, eat more wheat and stop the white bread. So they're just decades behind the curve, and they're telling people to eat more gluten. I know when my dad developed diabetes after he had a surgery, and I told him, well, just avoid bread and you'll be fine, and he was. His blood sugars were just fine. But then he went to the dietitian who told him he can have 6 to 8 servings of wheat products a day, and he just gobbled it up because he was addicted to bread. And of course his diabetes shot up, and he chose just to take diabetic medications because he wanted to keep eating bread because the dietitian told him so.
Wow. Wow. Okay, very good. Very good.
Okay. And the next one at 2:32. In the beginning of April, I decided to try another brand of liquid magnesium that was less expensive since I was taking 3 to 4 teaspoons a day. I don't know if I was taking enough of the new brand or if I wasn't absorbing it well, but I began to experience muscle fatigue in legs, arms. The numb, tingly feeling started coming again across the middle of my back, and lightheaded dizziness was bothering me again. So just to say that our Remag is the strongest Remag on the market. You cannot get anything stronger. And the lesser, this is why I asked the chemist to make a very, very concentrated magnesium. I wanted it in pill form, but the magnesium we were using was so strong it would just eat through the capsules. So I had been taking several ounces of angstrom magnesium every day to keep my leg spasms and heart palpitations under control. So I considered it an incredible breakthrough to go from 2 ounces a day to 2 and 3 teaspoons a day. So it is a proprietary process. Nobody else can ever have this formula. So I don't know. I didn't ask her for the brand, and I don't really want to talk about other brands here, but just be careful, because I do get emails, and Ginny gets calls about this all the time where, I took another brand, it looked the same, and now I'm sick. What's wrong? And, when you do the math on the amounts, either the parts per million or the milligrams per unit, then you never get the same amount as you will in the Remag. Do you get people telling you that, Ginny, that they go to lesser brands and then feel worse?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, all the time. They go to lesser brands, they feel worse, get the laxative effect. It doesn't, it doesn't work as well. Very few people switch after they get used to Remag. It's when they first start using the Remag and they're using something else, and they say, well, I'm taking 1,000 milligrams of magnesium glycinate or whatever, and they think they're getting just a bunch. And then you do the math, and they're only getting 12.5% or something like that, and that's what throws people off, yeah.
Hey, guys, humans have not experienced a particular human being correct so many times. This is a new experience for humans, so they don't have full trust yet. They will learn that they're actually listening to somebody who's correct 99% of the time.
Pressure's on.
Bob, you don't have to flatter me that way. Honestly.
Yeah, I know. No, I don't have to, and I never will. Just being around Carol makes her associates think that they're correct, too.
That's right. It's all by osmosis, Bob.
Yeah, my Toronto staff thought what I was doing was so simple because I was so laid back about it that they all wanted to be doctors or counselors or nutritionists.
She had to fire several secretaries because when people called in to make an appointment with Carolyn, they would ask the client what was the problem and then proceed to give answers that they heard Carolyn say.
Very cool. Well, that is good that it won't happen for me because our customer service line has nixed any potential for me to have any ambition to be any sort of anything other than offended.
Yeah.
My only ambition. Yeah.
Okay, next mailbag. Righty. I've been taking magnesium, and it's been improving my sleep and my leg cramps. My problem is that I have high blood pressure and cholesterol. When I started following Dr. Dean, I stopped all medicine, just did vitamins and magnesium, but my blood pressure from stress was way too high. I started back on medicine to lower it. Now my cholesterol was too high, and they're giving me a statin. After much pressure from the doctor, I agreed to a new medicine called the Levalo. That's a statin with a fluoride molecule, starting very low, because every time I take a statin, I have a bad reaction. But after 2 pills, which I took every other day, I had major blood pressure major pressure issues with my eyes. So I stopped taking it, and the doctor wanted me to wait 2 weeks and try it again. What else can I do? And so, of course, I said, I don't know if you're even on the complement formulas. If you'd been on Remag and Remise, you wouldn't be I didn't say this to her, but I'm saying to the audience here, if she'd been on the Remag and Relight and the salted water, she shouldn't have blood pressure issues, and her cholesterol would be coming down, and she wouldn't have the stress of doctors forcing her to take a medication. I mean, why should a person take a medication if it makes them feel sick and the doctor not listen to them and say, oh, well, go after 2 weeks and try it again? And people still trust their doctors and stumble into these regimens where they're taking half a dozen drugs. And the drug that she was taking, I mean, to me that's a sure sign of magnesium deficiency, is this drug has a fluoride in it, so it would be really binding up whatever magnesium she had left, causing her blood pressure to go up, causing her cholesterol to go up. So I don't know what else to do but feel sorry for people who are put in this position where their doctors force them to take these drugs. So, of course, I'm telling her to read the Remag book and educate herself and decide for herself if she wants to do what's working for thousands and thousands of other people. So that was that answer.
Very good. Excellent. Yep, I agree. It's hard when you've got all the answers laid out for people, and it's so simple, and it just requires a basic pay attention to yourself, and they choose to, not engage it fully. I don't understand it either.
Well, I mean, I think on a certain level we know too much. We know that statins aren't working. They, even in large statistical studies, they end up killing more people than they save. We know they have the side effects. We know that there is an answer in complement formulas. But people don't know that. But that's why I've written the booklets to get people up to speed on what they need to know. But then even reading, they have to experience it. They have to take the formulas and see for themselves before they really get it.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here at Achieve Radio. About 15 minutes to the top of the hour. We continue with our mailbag this evening. If you're listening live and have a question or comment you'd like to share with Dr. Dean, 602-666-6027 is the call-in number. That's 602-666-6027. When you get into this call, just hit *5 on your keypad. That will raise your hand and let me know you want to be talking with Dr. Dean, or we'll put you on the phone. And, of course, this is the time when everybody calls in, right before the show ends, and then we get a flurry of phone calls. So we'll have to see if that happens again this evening. They always call them right at the last minute. Bam, 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 here they all come. Okay, well, everybody's still waiting, so we'll keep going, Carolyn.
Excellent. We're really working our way through the mailbag, so that's wonderful.
Oh, good.
Now, here's a topic that I'm pretty sure we've talked about it. I think we have some testimonials on Parkinson's. Parkinson's disease is where the substantia nigra in the brain creates an effect that stops some motor activity in the body. So this woman is saying she wants some fine-tuning on the RNA drops because she has Parkinson's. It affects mostly her feet and legs, and it started when her body starts stiffening up. Now, stiffening of the body is a sign of Parkinson's, but it's also a magnesium deficiency sign. But since nobody's bothered to research it, I can't say that that's a scientific reality. But I'd definitely be putting someone with Parkinson's on a lot of Remag. She says the drugs she's using, carbidopa and levodopa, do help. What they do is they go into the brain and they sort of stop that function that seizes up the motor activity, and she's able to do something with her body. It's not all stiff. So a friend told her about RNA drops. She decided to try them in late March. She took a sample bottle, and it wasn't long before she saw little improvements. She could begin to walk, not great, but actually walk while she was even low on her meds. Like, she's at a stage where she has to take a medication every 2 weeks to keep her, every 2 hours to keep her functioning. So toward the end of the 2 hours or even into the 3 hours, it sounds like she was still able to function. She was sleeping better at night, and she had very few toe cramps, and the tight muscles seemed to ease off. She took the drops for about 7 weeks. So that's about 49 days if she was taking 2 drops a day, because the bottle, we say it has 90 drops, but it really has about 100 drops. But then she said she began to get tight muscles and leg tremors, and seemed to be worsening. And so she said she stopped the drops. Now, I can't imagine she had many drops left. I was wondering at that point if she wasn't on enough Remag and Remite, and I wondered if that indicated she should go up a drop. If she just had a sample bottle, it lasted 7 weeks, it means she was only taking 1 or 2 drops a day. So she wasn't doing the increase like we recommend, increasing by a drop a week. So then she was off it for a week, then started it again with 1 drop a day, and took it for 3.5 weeks. She added the Realign to the Remag, so she was taking Remag, but she also takes 2 calciums and some vitamin D, as well as a multivitamin. And she was taking some magnesium calm, her Armour thyroid, the carbidopa, levodopa, and some neuropatch for her Parkinson's. So she's on a few things, and of course I told her, well, calcium and vitamin D aren't very helpful at all. They'll help seize up your nerves and your muscles. So when she was on the 1 drop a day, she said during that 3.5 weeks I was really very excited, having less and less downtimes. The last 5 days I had almost no downtimes. I started driving to the stores. I was feeling much better. Went to my granddaughter's dance recital, and then she crashed. So I would say there that she was doing too much. You know, when you start to get better, that's not the time to really push yourself and you know, make up for what you haven't done for years. I've had people do that all the time. Oh, I was feeling so much better that I decided to do all my spring cleaning, and then they crash and they wonder why. So she stopped the drops again. Took about 5 days for the effects to wear off, but the tremor slowed down, tight muscles relaxed, and I have had a window of feeling better. So then she's asking, what am I doing wrong? And the answer, of course, I said I can't prescribe for you, but as I said, the extra calcium and vitamin D could be depleting your magnesium. I would be taking 2 Realign, 3 teaspoons of Remag, 2 teaspoons of Remite. Follow the water and sea salt guidelines, saying the RNA drops and the Remag can detoxify the body and stir things up. I said you're on such a fine line of sensitivity to your condition and your meds that you're very sensitive to the complement formulas. The RNA drops are making new cells and they require lots of minerals. I think your body wants the magnesium, but it's being blocked by calcium and vitamin D, and then you get in trouble because you don't have enough magnesium. So I'm kind of putting it on the magnesium. Yeah, I don't know that for sure, but that's what I felt at the time. And it looks like I didn't tell her, but I have to go back and tell her that with the RNA drops that she should be increasing them, because it's kind of like I say with the Remag, you want to slowly build it up, and if you keep quitting, then your body, may miss having the RNA drops, and you don't know if you're having that sort of reaction. But I really admire her persistence with this, because she is seeing the benefits, but for whatever layers of detoxification or lack of magnesium or not doing the RNA drops consistently, she's been having these setbacks. But I think that's pretty amazing that her Parkinson's is responding to the complement formulas.
Absolutely, but that's what we have been talking about all these years, is making perfect cells and allowing the body to autonomically reset itself and do the thing that it desires to do, which is to be perfect, whole, and complete. So that's very exciting that it's happening. We've had, amazing testimonials, I think, over the years, and sometimes they all kind of just, like you said now, it's the complement formulas. It's just everything working together for the benefit of the body, and it's such a wise compilation of elements that it just works perfectly. Good for her.
Right. Yes, it's the genius body, and we're just sort of fine-tuning how to feed it. Next one. I've been reading all your information about mineral solutions. We've started taking Remag shortly after my husband was diagnosed with AFib. Started taking it a month ago, both presently on 3 teaspoons a day. He continues to have periods of exhaustion and chest heaviness. Can he continue to increase his dose? I say, is he doing the salted water? Is he taking enough water? Is he taking the Remag? He also may need to detox with the Realign and build new cells with the RNA drops. So, you see how this is how consultation goes with me now. It's like just take the formulas. So I said, see the guidelines in the Remag book, and I said I have a new book on atrial fibrillation coming out in 2 weeks. It's $1.99 on Kindle or as a PDF, and I chose that amount. It's a 90-some-plus page book, so, it's a decent size. But I actually started to write the book when I found this gentleman. He's not a medical person, but he wrote a book on atrial fibrillation, charges $30 for it, and he just I don't know about just. He has, some good information in there, but he mostly tells people to go and get catheter ablation of their the offending muscle cells in the heart for their atrial fibrillations. And he quotes me. He uses my picture, the picture of my book, and quotes me all over the place as if I'm endorsing it. So I do a lot of things out of frustration and anger and payback, I think.
Oh, that's good. Very good.
Yeah.
All right. How are we doing with our mailbag?
We've only got two left. This is part B of this last question. Of course, the dear lady asked about her husband first. We always put ourselves second. Stop doing that. And she says, I was curious about menopause and hot flashes. I'm 50. I had a radical hysterectomy several years ago. Now wear an estrogen patch due to the severe hot flashes. I noticed with using the Remag that my hot flashes having increased. Is my body just adjusting? And it is, but I said you could add Remite and detox with Realign as well. It actually may mean you need less of the patch because the Remag is supporting your estrogen production. And I said you have to play with your dosing. And she asked if it would help resolve, and I said we've seen it quite a lot. And the whole thing about hot flashes and the menopausal symptoms is that when you stop having your monthly menses, that is one less way that you detox your body, so the toxins stay inside, don't get outside, and that's where women start developing health statistics where they become as sick as men after their menopause. And that's where the Realign comes in to help you detoxify. The Remite is going to support your thyroid and your adrenals, which will also be affected if your estrogen is low. So again, the complement formulas to the rescue. And here's a nice email from a nurse. And she's saying, I have a client who started using Remag at a small dose, 2 drops twice a day, but kept having a scratchy throat whenever she took it. I told her to stop it for now. Any suggestions? Could it be some healing process? And yes, I do think that can be the case, but what she could do is put the 2 drops in that liter of water, or even better, do a couple of sprays on the skin and start to introduce it transdermally and see if that affects the throat. If that continues, that means it's bringing out most likely yeast overgrowth. If she's got a coated tongue, if she answers with a high score on the yeast questionnaire, the Dr. Crook yeast questionnaire that you can find online at yeastconnection.com. I don't know, let me look up yeastconnection.com because that was down for a while. I don't know if it's up. Let me look.
Yep. It wasn't working, and we went to Whole Approach questionnaire, which is actually very good too.
It's up. The site yeastconnection.com is up. Fill out the questionnaire, and if a person is high, that means they have yeast overgrowth, which affects all the mucous membranes, and magnesium will help you detoxify yeast and can give you symptoms anywhere. And her other question, the nurse was saying, I've been taking Remag for almost 6 months. My magnesium RBC is still below 6, but I feel like I'm getting deficiency symptoms again, sore muscles and anxiety. I'm taking about 1 teaspoon twice a day. Should I decrease even though my blood levels don't seem to be up? I don't know why she would say that, but if she's on 2 teaspoons a day, which BID means she's splitting it up, then yeah, her magnesium could still be low. If she has deficiency, she should be increasing it, or at least put the 2 teaspoons in that liter of water and sip it through the day and see if she can retain it more. So that would be the answer there. take it through the day and maybe add a teaspoon, but also make sure you're doing the remite, and if there's toxicity, the realign, and certainly the RNA drops to make perfect cells. So all the formulas are going to work synergistically together. So we're at 1:56, but actually there was a couple of added questions right at the end, so I can go with one of these. I've been faithfully using your product for 4 months. Just putting the time down here. I was wondering if the effects on connective tissue. I have a connective tissue disorder called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. There's no cure, but I'm curious if that is from a medical point of view, and there might be a pill for it, but maybe I can fix myself with nutrition. Yes, connective tissue requires copper. Copper's in Remite. It also requires zinc. It requires vitamin C, so that's our liposomal vitamin C. The magnesium is very important, as Ginny said, for 3,700 protein structure molecules. So the complement formulas, especially the RNA drops, they just come into a mystical, uncurable condition and do amazing things. So absolutely, I think we could have some influence in this condition if the person would keep up on it. She's been doing them for 4 months, and let's see what happens in a year. Bob tells a story about how it took several years for his broken arm, chipped bone, and nerve damage started to respond. So just keep on keeping on, folks.
Very good, very good. That's this evening's show. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back next week.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Bob. Thank you,
You've
Ginny.
been listening to
Thank you, guys.
Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on AchieveRadio.com. Till next time, so long, and thanks for all the fish.
Achieve